Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our SwiftUI tutorial series, and in this particular video we're going to be taking a look at how we can change the type of keyboard being used in SwiftUI text fields, as well as for the text editor. Now, there are certain keyboards here. I want to get out ahead of this in advance. That do not have a return key on them, so they don't dismiss when you hit the return key, right? Because, well, there isn't a return key to hit. And that, while a problem, there are ways to solve it. One of the more common ways to do it is to use a toolbar. However, we haven't learned what a toolbar is yet, or how to use it, so you'll have to stay tuned for that, because I'm not going to cover toolbars yet. But just know there are certain keyboards that present certain other challenges that you'll have to overcome when you're developing your apps. And I'll point them out as we go forward. But let's go ahead and kind of talk about how we actually do this. Well, to change the keyboard type on a text field, you need to use the keyboard type modifier. Now, this modifier is not available on macOS. It's available on iOS and iPadOS. In fact, if we bring up the documentation for this modifier, if we go into Safari, we can say keyboard type Apple developer documentation. There we go. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at the availability. So you can see iOS, you have iPadOS. It is available on Mac Catalyst, although it's not really going to have much of an effect. Now, why is it available on Mac Catalyst? Well, Mac Catalyst is pretty much just like making your iPad app available on Mac. This is available on tvOS because you can have, on-screen keyboards on tvOS, and visionOS. You notice that You notice that watchOS isn't on here, and you notice that macOS isn't on here either, because they don't support having different keyboards. While watchOS does have a keyboard you can use, it doesn't support changing like the iOS keyboard does. So that's why this modifier isn't available on those platforms. Right. So let's go back to Xcode, and let's go ahead and actually apply this modifier to this text field. Now, this text field that I have in Xcode is for entering, a username for, say, a sign-up page or something like that. We can say .keyboard type and in here we need to give it, okay, so it's being uncooperative again. Alright, keyboard type, right? Okay. I know why it's not showing up. It's because I'm on the macOS run destination. So make sure that your run destination isn't on a destination that doesn't support the modifier, otherwise it's not going to show up. So I'm going to change it to 15 Pro or 15 Pro Max or any kind of iOS or iPadOS simulator there. All right. So keyboard type. There we go. Now this takes in a UI keyboard type from UIKit. And if we do a dot here and we go into our code completion, we have URL, which is a keyboard type specifically for entering URLs. We have ASCII capable numberPad, decimalPad. Now decimalPad is one of those keyboards that does not have a return key, so you would have to use a done button in a toolbar for the keyboard to dismiss it, or you'd have to use or you'd have to implement scrolling to dismiss the keyboard, or touch anywhere to dismiss, stuff like that, whatever your design calls for. You have the default keyboard, which is just where it starts out with the without numbers or anything like that, just the letters. There's one for entering email addresses. There's phonePad, numberPad, numbers and punctuation, phonePad, Twitter, web search, alphabet, and you get the idea, right? There's all kinds of different keyboards here. What we are going to use here is, as an example, is email address. Right? So now if we run our code, kind of let it do its thing. We're now actually going into the simulator. I can't use macOS for this because, again, this modifier is not available on macOS. Okay, looks like the appearance. Where? Alright, so here we are. So we have iPhone 15 Pro and all that. The simulator is not cooperating because it's a beta, so let's rerun this in the simulator, and hopefully it should work this time. It's got to launch and do all of its stuff here. Alright, so here we are. Enter your username. There we go. Now it's in dark mode. We can do this. And so you can see this is what the email address keyboard looks like. We have the letters, we have a period, we have a space, and we have an @ symbol. The space, period, and @ symbol are of course down where the space bar usually takes up most of the width of the keyboard. And obviously the @ symbol is there to make it easier to enter email addresses and stuff like that. All right. So each individual keyboard kind of has its own special appearance, has its own special look to it. In fact, if we change the keyboard type from email address to, let's say, .numberPad, and we save it and run it, and we try to edit this, you can see that we get exactly what we intended to get, a numberPad, where it just shows numbers and all that stuff. There's no toolbar, there's no return key, or anything like that. So again, you'd have to figure out some other way to dismiss the keyboard when you're done with it. But that pretty much does it for this video on how you can change the keyboard type on your text fields in SwiftUI. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.